If there's something that seems like it's up and coming, try to bring it in. A lot of the time, I'll lead with a gold and silver or uranium, and we'll sneak something else in at the end. And honestly, a lot of the time, that's where you might want to pay the most attention because I think everybody knows, but it's so hard to do. You want to have that contrarian angle where you're going after not the thing that's in the headline, but the thing that's a little bit more under the radar.
Welcome to In It to Win It. This is Steve Barton, and thank you for tuning in. We are here with Charlotte McLeod of Investing News Network. Charlotte has been interviewing experts in the commodity space for a very long time, and today we're going to pick her brain and ask the questions that you submitted. Charlotte, thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
We are as well. I've been looking forward to this one. You have a natural ability for doing this. I think that you should be on the other side of the camera every now and then, and I'm glad that you decided to do it. So thank you.
Well, thank you again. I'm excited. We'll see how it goes. I haven't done a lot of these, so we'll see how it plays out.
You're a natural. Let's start off. This is your first time on the show, so go ahead and tell us your story, how you got into investing, and how that led to you hosting your show.
I think I'll go a little bit in reverse direction because really I came to INN and then maybe the investing journey came after that. So I did my degree in English. So yes, you can get a job with a degree in English, although it can be a little bit tricky. And actually what I really wanted to do, I wanted to go into editing, so editing written work. And my dream job really when I was finishing school would have been to edit books. But I was trying to get into it any way that I could, and I got a job at INN, and they picked me up as a copy editor. So really the very bottom of the food chain there. I was doing things like checking grammar and facts for the articles we're publishing on the website. And I really didn't know anything about investing or the mining sector. I remember saying in my interview, I told them I'd taken geology in grade 12, and that was the level of exposure. But I really enjoyed it, and obviously I stuck with it. That was all the way back in 2012. So I worked my way up at the company. Eventually, I was leading the editorial department. And really during the pandemic, I think like a lot of companies, we turned more to YouTube to try to connect more directly with our audience. And we had done online video content before that, but it was essentially all going to events and talking to people there. So that was a big change, and it was quite a learning experience in 2020, 2021. If you go back and look at those videos, hopefully you can see how far we've come from that time. But that's how I really got into doing this on YouTube on a more regular basis. And I really enjoy it. It did come from trying to get information more directly to our audience. And I think that has worked pretty well. We've built it from there. We hope to continue doing that. I think maybe something that might surprise people. It's still just one part of what I do at INN, and people who know me in real life are always pretty surprised to know that I do anything on camera at all because I'm pretty shy. But I like to think, coming from that editing written content background, it makes sense because what I'm trying to do there is bring out the best of the writer, and I try to do that in the interviews as well. So hopefully that gives a little bit of context.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense now that you got your degree in English because you're very articulate and you enunciate each word with full purpose. So that makes a lot of sense. Pretty cool. So you've been with INN now for like 13 years, and but you really started kind of getting into the commodity space and interviewing the experts around 2020.
Yeah, I would say that's essentially the journey there. It really intensified in that 2020 time.
Okay, okay, awesome. Very cool story. All right, let's get into your macro thoughts on the global economy. Where do you see we are today?
Well, I'll tell you what I think. I'm not sure that I can bring you anything new that you haven't heard before, but I'll try to bring together thoughts and things that I'm hearing from our guests because I try to listen to everybody and build a consensus from there. And what I'm getting from a lot of people is the US economy seems to have held on a lot longer than people expected. We were talking before we turned the camera on how we're coming up to the New Orleans Investment Conference. And I was thinking back to 3 years ago, I believe I was there and I was having all these conversations with people saying, are we going into a recession? What's going on here? Because we just had that two negative quarters of GDP, which seems to have been explained away at this point. But it doesn't feel like things have gotten better. I've been having a lot of Fed conversations recently around how inflation is so sticky. And now with rates coming down, of course, we're nowhere near the 2% target, and it doesn't feel like we're going to get any closer to that. We've got the jobs data, which that situation feels very, very confusing to me with the constant adjustments and now with the government shutdown, the sheer lack of data to even work with seems very concerning. I hear a lot about the debt. I'm sure that you have many conversations about this too, which of course is massive. I hear a lot about how untenable it is, how something needs to break. And I struggle with that because it's something that is said a lot and repeated. And for me, I'm always wondering, all right, but when though? When? What is going to be the breaking point? And I do a lot of my own reading trying to put these things into context. One thing I also do a lot is I talk to my dad, and he is very informed about things that are going on, but he's not a precious metals person. So I often am using him as I'll present ideas that I hear, and I try to get his take. And I see him now getting more and more in line with what I'm hearing from the people I talk to. And he's coming from that more generalist arena. And I'm thinking, if he's having so many of the same concerns, that really to me tells me that something is going wrong here. So those are some thoughts. I think you can get data and numbers from people who can do a much better job than I am. I'm certainly not an economist. I think that things in everyday life also kind of help me to understand uh, how things are and how things have changed. I think anecdotally, when I went to the grocery store, every time I went there, I used to have the cart of groceries, lay them all out. I used to be able to look at them and just eyeball it and think, okay, that's the cost. And it was just a weird little trick that I could do. That has gone totally out the window. Can't do that anymore because the prices are so off the hook. And I think another anecdotal point I would add is I have a friend who works in finance, very, very skilled, been doing it for a long time. He's been looking for a job for a year. And every position, there are so many skilled people applying that the companies can just choose absolutely the best, most perfect fit. And to me, these are just things that I see from day to day, and I think, oh, okay, these things seem concerning. So does that help or answer the question?
Oh yeah, well said. Okay, so I would say generally to summarize this, generally speaking, you're seeing concern, and that the Fed is lowering rates. They usually don't do that because the economy's having a good time. The government's with the shutdown. There's a lot of opaqueness around some of the data that we normally look at, specifically the jobs data. Debt is at all-time highs, and anyone can go at the world or the U.S. debt clock and see that yard sale happening. Interesting that you mentioned you use your dad as a bellwether for generalist investor info. I do with my friends as well. They know that I got the, finance channel and stuff, but they don't usually watch it or anything. So talking with them gives me a real good idea of like where general people, think that the economy is, and I'm seeing the same thing that you're probably seeing from your dad, and that it's a general concern. They feel like something's off. They don't know what, but they know that something's not right, and they see it through prices like you seeing at the grocery store.
Yeah, 100%. I think I love to be in this space and I love to hear from all the experts that we both talk to all the time, but I do also like to have a handle on external to this arena.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, what commodities do you mainly focus on? Which ones have your most of your attention?
Well, I would say gold and silver are at the top of the list, certainly, especially I'll talk about this maybe from the perspective of our channel because that is so closely connected to me. Gold and silver definitely at the top. Our audience loves to know what's going on with gold and silver. So I am most entrenched there, especially right now and following what's going on. The third one is uranium, easily number three. And depending on what's happening, depending on what's going on and how the different markets are going, sometimes that can, come up the ranks and that's the one that we're focusing on. So I love to follow what's going on there. I think it's very interesting. We do other areas as they come up. We do a little bit of oil and gas, which I'm trying to get more of a grip on. We will do copper from time to time. And I try to it's not well, it's a little tricky to strike a balance because you want to bring to the audience information about what they're interested in. And often what they're interested in is what's hot right now. But
Yes.
then, yeah, yeah, and we talked about this, I think, the last time you were on. So you want to give people the information they want about what's happening right now, but balance that with what could be coming down the road. And so I try to do that. I try to, if there's something that seems like it's up and coming, try to bring it in. A lot of the time I'll lead with a gold and silver or uranium and we'll sneak something else in at the end. And honestly, a lot of the time that's where you might want to pay the most attention because I think everybody knows, but it's so hard to do. You want to have that contrarian angle where you're going after not the thing that's in the headline, but the thing that's a little bit more under the radar.
Yeah, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay, so number one and two are gold and silver. Number three, uranium. Four and five are copper and oil and gas. But yeah, you're right. Like right now, gold and silver, well, at least as of a few days ago, we're at all-time highs. And but ironically, there's probably a cheap, hated commodity out there that everyone should be focusing on instead of what's in the spotlight, and balancing that to still get people to watch your video. And nobody cares about nickel right now. So if you make that the headline, which is probably what they should be focusing on, no one will watch the show. I see
It's
exactly what
it's
you're saying.
true. Yeah, you must know that exactly as well as I do. Sometimes I do want to put whatever the hated one is in the title, but it's you really have to balance giving, I think, an accurate representation of the conversation with a good hook to get people to watch it. I love to use the YouTube chapters so that people can look, they can click to the points that they want and they can see everything that's covered. So if you do just want to see the gold and silver, you can do that. Or if you want to just skip to the less disgusting, you can do that too. So yeah, I try to balance it.
Yep, I do the same thing. I do the same thing. Okay, so let's get into some listener questions here. You've got some real fans in here.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's see. Okay, the basic question is here. I'm going to summarize it. Where do you see the next wave of money coming from? Tyrion wants to know, like, any shifts towards other natural resources other than silver and gold, something you're eyeing yourself. Basically asking, where's the train headed next?
Okay, okay. I'll try to gather my thoughts and answer in a good way. This year has been really interesting. I think at earlier points in the year, I might have said, wow, it seems like platinum's ready to go, or even copper with all of the tariff confusion that we had happening. But I think perhaps what I would say is critical minerals, and I hesitate to say it. I'm almost a bit annoyed at myself for saying it because critical minerals, it's such a buzzword right now. Maybe it's not under the radar. Maybe it's already happening and it's not so up and coming. It's very interesting to me though because it's it's a bit of a nebulous sector because everything can be critical now, and that I struggle with that a little bit. But I try to remind myself when countries make these critical minerals lists, it varies on a country to country basis, and it relates back to what they don't have and what they need. So when you see many things going on to these lists, maybe it is because that country does genuinely need them. So I think you can focus in that way. Um, and you can, I think, try to hone in on where there is going to be movement. I know rare earths, for example, right now. Maybe you see what's going on with the US and China, and you think maybe there's opportunity there because we need to build a supply chain that is away from China. And it really does seem, I will have to wait and see. It really does seem like there's a change in the US, maybe in Canada as well, just in the West in general of recognition that we need to do something there. So I I don't know if I like my answer, but I think there is value in looking at critical minerals and taking a look for yourself and seeing, okay, there's so many, which ones should I hone in on? How can I approach this? Because I think there's definitely things that can be done there. Uh, Aside from that, I know also on the critical minerals angle, there's the whole processing issue where, okay, of course, we should have ways to mine things in the West. We also need to do the processing. I don't know how to approach that, but that seems like something that we should talk more about and figure out how to get exposure to. The other thing I think a lot about, and was talking to my coworker recently about this, is just agricultural commodities, given growing population and again, increasing concerns about supply chain security. People really do have to eat. And I would have to imagine that potash, phosphate, that kind of thing are only going to become more key as time goes on. And I need to look further into this. I don't know how to approach it. I feel like I often hear, maybe you hear this as well, people say to buy farmland, and that seems like a very large task that the average person maybe can't go out and simply buy farmland. So there have to be easier ways to approach it than that. So that's something that is on my mind. I would like to look more at that. And even more nebulous maybe, but related to that is the water issue. And I've talked to Rick Rule about this in the past, and this was a while back, so he may have more things to say, or I may not be remembering entirely correctly, but it was something he was interested in as well. And it seems like it's tricky to get exposure to. But if I think about, what is coming in the future, of course we need metals and commodities and things like that, but just things to sustain life, that seems quite important. So those are some thoughts.
Okay. So number one, critical minerals. You can look no further than the recent administration. They came out with their critical minerals list. And I've been trying to go through with premium subscribers and trying to pick out some little gems that could be the next MP materials to just get a flood of ridiculous government money, which will double the stock overnight. We'll get more into those soon, later. Processing issue. There could be something there. When you were talking about that, the first thing that came to mind was conversion and enrichment with uranium. Most of that we get outside the U.S., which is kind of sad when we have the biggest nuclear fleet on the planet. Agricultural stocks. There, you see, there might be some some value there in things like potash and the things that are needed to phosphate, the things that are needed to for fertilizers. You know, without these fertilizers, we can't have nearly the yields that we do, and that would play into the ag stocks. And then last and not least, water issues. I remember talking with Rick Rule about that a few years ago, and he said, you know, the water plays were pretty nice about 40 years ago, but they're kind of gone now. He said it's either J.G. Boswell or Limonera, which is a avocado citrus company that's right down the street from me, actually. That was his thoughts there. But okay, all
Well,
right. Critical minerals, processing, ag stocks, and water.
I think so. I think, and of course, I'm sure there's many things that I'm not thinking of, but those are ones that stand out and that I think about.
Okay, all right. Let's see. Let's move on to this is interesting and kind of goes in line with what well, your line of work. Do you have, Sean wants to know, do you have any advice for new people trying to build careers in finance media?
That's a good question. Nobody has ever asked me for my advice on that topic. That's a nice question. I think you can tell that I came into this in a bit of an accidental way. So I'm sure that there are more structured ways that you could come at this that I don't know about, but maybe I'll talk about things that have helped me. I love to watch what everybody else is doing in this general sector. I love to watch your interviews. I'm watching as many of the other different channels as I can to know what people are asking and what people are saying. So I feel like that is maybe the main piece of advice is to get entrenched and find out what people are saying. I also like to keep an eye on what's happening on X. I find that super useful. You get a lot of interesting people and interesting thoughts there. I think that you even don't necessarily see come out on YouTube as well. So I think that's what has helped me and maybe it could help others as well.
Okay. Pay attention to people that are already doing it in the space, watch them. And then you're right, there's a lot of smart people on X on Twitter. Yeah, especially I found maybe it's just because of my feed and what I'm interested in, but the uranium space, my God, there are some highly intelligent people on there that should probably be charging for their content instead of giving it away for free.
That's the sector that I'm always calling out when I have these uranium conversations. I feel like I have to be so up to speed in asking questions and talking because the audience for that content is so informed. So, yeah, absolutely, I agree.
They are highly intelligent in that sector, but more so than any other sector that I've followed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Let's see. Oh, this is interesting. What's the most contrarian investment opinion you have ever encountered?
Wow. Good question. I don't know about, okay, I don't know if this is a funny answer or not. It's the first thing that came to mind right now, but you know how we're talking about the gold price being at or near all-time highs on this record-setting run. Based on the comments I see on our channel, I think the people who come on and are suggesting maybe you take some profits in gold right now or your gold stocks, I feel like that is being treated, at least among our viewers, as a very contrarian opinion. There's a lot of people who they wanna hold it, which is valid. They don't want to sell it. So when they see people coming in with that advice, they take it as very, very contrarian to what they want to do. I don't know if that is a good answer, but that's what I thought of.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that goes into sentiment. I was talking with when I was starting this out on this channel. I remember talking with Jordan Royburn of the Daily Gold, and I'm like, you know, nobody cared. Like all of us technical analysts, it wasn't magic. we called the double bottom within a day when gold hit in October 2022. It hit a triple bottom. And I'm like, we're getting no views. No one cares. Like, this is the buying opportunity of a lifetime. And he's like, welcome to the world of podcasting. That's sentiment. He's like, no one cares until it's at all-time highs, and then everyone wants to buy it. And that's ironically when you're selling. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah, it's funny.
that's true. Okay, are you concerned about the upcoming reset and fiat debasement that many of her interviewees have talked about? And how are you personally preparing for these scenarios?
Well, I am inherently a person who worries, unfortunately. So when I have these conversations and all these thoughts washing over me, yeah, it can feel quite concerning. I think that one thing that helps me when I feel nervous is so there is a lot of doom and gloom to an extent, but I think, and I'm sure you've noticed this as well, there are in general, I think people believe that maybe we will have hard times, but we'll get through them. And I notice Rick Rule say that pretty frequently. Uh, David Morgan recently, I had him on, he will say the same thing where they think, yeah, it's going to be tricky, but they have that belief that maybe things won't well no things won't go back to how they were, but they will be in some way okay, and people will persist. So I try to keep that in mind when it feels like things are getting a little bit heavy. And I do think that okay, the second part of the question was about being prepared. So I I am a person who likes to have a plan. I'm very methodical, and definitely I had maybe we'll talk more about this later, but I had a period of time where it was very you can get really frozen by inaction and not knowing what to do. And now I buy gold, I have gold and silver, and that just makes me feel a whole lot more okay, like many people. So maybe that's where I'll leave that.
Okay, you're in good company here. We're all preppers. I don't think I'll ever have to use that Ziploc bag of silver dimes, but just in case, I have it.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. I'm
Just in
very
case.
much a just in case person, yeah, you don't want to see the worst case scenario, but prepare for the worst and expect hope for the best. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, very well said. Very well said. Okay, we're going to move on to our premium Substack content here, Charlotte. Any final thoughts? If people want to follow you and your work, how can they do so?
Well, they can follow us on YouTube. It's Investing News. You can find me there all the time doing interviews, and we do a weekly recap there as well. And I think many people don't necessarily know we have a website as well. It's investingnews.com. And there is much more than me on the website, which is great. You can see the interviews there, but we also post a lot of news and especially educational content on the mining sector. And we go a little bit beyond the mining sector. We do a certain degree of tech and life science content as well, if that interests you. So on the YouTube is where I am, and then the website is a great source for going beyond me.
Okay, yeah, we'll put your links down below. I didn't know
Thank
about
you.
that science background. I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to the planets and stars and stuff. I'll check that out. But highly recommend your YouTube channel. I watch it all the time. I'm a fan. Keep up the good work, Charlotte.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this conversation, we went even deeper in a special interview exclusively for premium Substack subscribers. Does Charlotte see retail investors entering the precious metal space today? Are they coming into the junior space, indicating a top? And what is Charlotte buying and selling with her own money? What specific critical minerals does she see the biggest opportunity? In other words, where is the next pile of money going, and how do we front run it? If you want access to that, plus weekly updates on the stocks I'm buying and selling with real-time trade alerts, head over to Substack and join us. The link is down below in the description, or go to stevebartonmoney.com and sign up there. And if you're already a premium subscriber, check your inbox. The next video with Charlotte is waiting for you. Thank you so much for your support. Have a wonderful rest of your day.